I decided that my kitchen was in need of a going through before company comes for the Christmas holidays. And one of the things that I thought about ahead of time was decluttering. And I have this beautiful Pyrex that I got off the marketplace. But the more that I've lived with it, the more I've realized that it's not for me. Mostly because of the sizing. I never choose to use it because the sizes are just too small for our family. And as beautiful as it is, I paid too much for it to just sit and not be used. So rather than wait until January, I've decided to put it up on the marketplace to sell. And actually something pretty fantastic happened because I got a message from a woman that has an antique store in town. And so we ended up making a deal and I got to go shopping in her store. And so it worked out perfectly. One of the things I thought would be really nice to have done before company comes is to clean my copper. And it hasn't been done in a while. I probably only do it a few times a year to go through and properly clean it. But I use a product called Barkeeper's Friend, and this stuff works so incredibly well. I've tried everything else from lemon juice and salt to scrubbies and all kinds of things. But this Barkeeper's Friend works really effectively and quickly. And one of the tricks that I found is that you want to have your cloth kind of on the dry side. You don't want to have it wet because it just dissolves it and then it doesn't work properly. But this copper came out so nicely and it almost turns a rose gold color. It's so, so pretty. You can just see the difference and it's huge. So I went ahead and cleaned all of my copper pieces and I'm just so happy to have that done because then when my company is here, if we want to use the copper, it's all nice and clean and ready to go. My daughter and her boyfriend are coming up from Vancouver Island, and so we're going to get to spend about 4 days with them, and then they're heading over to his parents' house. And I can't wait to see them. We've only seen them once a year for the past couple of years, and it's usually at Christmas. So I really want things to be spruced up and beautiful for when they get here. I made sure to clean the whole wall behind the copper, and I'm not pulling my stove out right now because I'm waiting for my deep cleaning routine that I have planned for January, and I'll probably be getting to behind all of these appliances then. I got all of these copper pots last year, and about 3/4 of them came from my brother. He had a collection that he wanted to get rid of, and so I got his copper. And then I also acquired some at the thrift store, and I definitely could see a difference in quality when I cleaned his more expensive copper compared to the cheaper stuff. Now, the next thing that I wanted to do was clean my utensil drawer, and I must have not pressed play when I thought I was recording the before of this drawer. But I'm really glad that I don't have that footage because it was really embarrassing. It was in a bad state. But I decided to clean the whole thing out because nothing's more gross than pulling out silverware and it's all in a dirty drawer. So I wanted that to be clean. And then I thought it was a good idea to count my silverware and see how many pieces I have because I had too many of some items and then not enough of others. So I made a list of how much I need to go get of certain pieces like knives. And then I took some out that I had too many of. This whole drawer needed such a good scrub down. And I even scraped it because there was actually candle wax in there that was melted. I don't know how that happened, but it has something to do with my kids for sure. But afterwards, it just came out so nice and so clean, and it just made such a huge difference. And one of the things that I noticed was the beautiful wood pattern that's also in the rest of the kitchen, because this house was actually built by our landlord's parents. And so they must have found some really beautiful wood to build this house with. It's been such a relief to have this job done, because every time I pull this drawer out now, it looks so pretty and it's not overflowing with too many forks or what have you. So that job is done. The next thing that I wanted to do was fill up this container that I have for my potatoes. Now, we grew our own potatoes this year, as well as other root vegetables, and it has been such a blessing to have these things and not have to buy them at the store. I also went ahead and cleaned this copper pot that I used to keep my utensils in. And I really love this little pot, but it's worn away a bit on the inside, so it's kind of unsafe to use for cooking. So I've just decided to use it for my utensils. And I'm just putting all of the items back into their place. Another thing that I thought was a good idea to do before company comes is to count all of my plates and dishes, because how many times do you have company over and then you realize you don't have enough of something? That's always the worst. So I actually only have 6 dinner plates in this Christmas pattern, and I would like to have about 8. So I'm going to try to find 2 more plates if I can at the thrift store. Moving on, I'm refilling my canisters. I've got flour and sugar that I'm adding in here. And I use this brush to just clean the edges off. And I learned that trick when I worked in a pie shop, because if you use a wet cloth on flour, it just turns into a gummy paste. So I just want to have these full so that if I do some baking around Christmas, which I definitely will be, then these are nice and full and ready to go. The kitchen is so heavily used in our house that quite often I'm just doing dishes and it's kind of a rinse and repeat procedure, and there's just other things that I don't always get to. So I'm trying to be intentional and take the time that I need in order to get these other things done in my kitchen, so that when I have company there, everything is kind of full up and ready to be used. These are my russet potatoes that I grew, and they're storing really, really well. I didn't wash them first, you're not supposed to, and I'm just keeping them in a big sack down in my storage room. One of the things that happens when you grow your own food is that you get used to having different sizes, because in the grocery store, everything is a standard size, but when you grow it yourself, you have big and small and in between. And I also have these fingerling potatoes. They're starting to grow their little roots, but they're still firm and they're still good to use. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the roots off of them, and I'm definitely going to save some of them for seed next year, but I thought it would be nice to use some of them over the holidays while they're still good enough to use. And then the rest I'm just going to save for seed. We're already starting to get our seed catalogs in the mail for next year, and I haven't looked through them yet because I'm waiting until after Christmas to start thinking about next year's garden. Our farm went really, really late this year, and we actually only just stopped picking our carrots. There are so many things that you need to consider as a homemaker before your company arrives. And having clean towels and sheets is definitely one of them. And I made a whole list of things that I want to have accomplished before they show up, because once they're here, everything will be lost and I will just be in their company. I found this really cute set of salt and pepper shakers, and they're little silver antique pieces. I only paid $1 each for them, but I thought that they would be so cute at the Christmas table. So I'm just filling them up with some salt and pepper, and of course I cleaned them first. And it's just nice to have little luxuries. I still have quite a bit of cedar left over from when my son and I went to the woods. So I've decided just to use a few little pieces to line this silver tray, just to add a festive touch. I'm eating a little bit of a brunch here because homemaking is tiring work. And I've decided that what I really need to focus on before my company gets here is meal planning and figuring out some ideas for some nice meals over the holiday period. If you've been on my channel a while, you'll know that I really love vintage cookbooks, but I've still hung on to a couple of my newer cookbooks. And I really love these two books. I have this Outlander cookbook, and then the other book is called the Farmette cookbook. And there are some really rustic ideas and great recipes. And now I'm just adding a few extra touches of cedar around the kitchen for a finishing touch, which I think looks really festive. And there's a lot of wood in my kitchen, so adding that green really stands out. Thank you so much for joining me today. I share videos every week, so consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.